Hello, everyone. I'm Tyler Chrestman. Welcome to the Chrestman Conversation. Today on the podcast, we are going to discuss the fact that Joe Biden announced his reelection bid for the presidency. I know what you're thinking. Oh my gosh, how exciting. Joe Biden running for another term. Can't wait. This guy is a real sharp tack, and he's put the country on a great path forward. I'm sure that everyone watching this podcast is thinking the same thing that I'm thinking, which is that none of that is true. He is terrible, and we're going to go through all the reasons why here today. But first, let's start by watching the re-election video, and then we'll go from there.
When I ran for president 4 years ago, I said we're in a battle for the soul of America, and we still are.
Sounds so old.
The question we're facing is whether in the years ahead we have more freedom or less freedom, more rights or fewer. I know what I want the answer to be, and I think you do too. This is not a time to be complacent.
It just looks old. Cool picture.
That's why I'm running for re-election. Because I know America.
Wow. How do you feel inspired? I know I certainly feel inspired by watching that. He said absolutely nothing about what he actually wants to do. He just said, America. And is his voice not just so old? It just sounds old. He sounds tired. He doesn't sound energetic. Why do we want a president who's going to be in his 80s? I'm talking to you, Donald Trump, as well. Why would we want a president who is 80 years old? He is not mentally there. It's just a fact at this point. I don't understand how anyone can debate this. I don't get it. Oh, we're not gonna get off topic here though. We're gonna go. Why is he running? Why is he running? The answer is very simple. Joe Biden is running because he believes that Donald Trump is going to be the Republican nominee, and he knows that he can beat Donald Trump. The Republicans are shooting themselves in the foot. Donald Trump is pulling ahead of everyone else. I get it, okay? I get it. I voted for Donald Trump in the last election. I understand why people liked him. I personally think that Donald Trump was a really good president. With the exception of the last year of his presidency, he had 3 years where he was actually a really good president. I don't care about Donald Trump, his bravado. I don't care about the fact that I think that he's not as bright as he thinks he is. None of this matters to me. What matters to me are the policies. The policies that Donald Trump put forward. They were good. That's all I care about. I don't care about what the president's like personally. I would prefer not to know next to anything about the president, what he's personally like. I don't care if he's nice. I don't care if he's a good family man. I don't care. What do you do with the job? That's what's important to me. It's like the same way I feel about musical artists or writers or directors. I don't care. I don't care how bad of a person you are. I really do not. Provided that you're not corrupt as a politician, you're not taking money that you shouldn't take or doing it at the expense of the taxpayers. I do not care what your relationship with your wife or your children or whether or not you're real nice in person. I don't care about any of this. What do you do in the office? Donald Trump did a good job in the office. Joe Biden beat him in the last election. I could go through all the reasons why I think that election was nonsense and all my problems I have with the way that we do elections in the United States. But Joe Biden won. That's what it comes down to, and that's where we sit today. So Joe Biden is running because Donald Trump is the presumptive nominee for the Republicans. That's the only reason. He thinks he can beat Donald Trump. He knows he can't beat other people. He knows that. But Donald Trump is polling way ahead of everybody else. He's got I think the numbers here might be a little off, but last I saw, Ron DeSantis was polling at 22%, and Donald Trump's polling at 46%. He's got a gigantic lead over the rest of the field. Everyone else is in single digits. Nikki Haley, Vivek, Mike Pence, I think those are the other ones I remember. But they're all in the single digits. Ron DeSantis is polling well, but Donald Trump is way ahead of everybody else. So Joe Biden's looking at that and saying, I can win. I can do it again. And he's probably not wrong. That's the the issue. He's been a terrible president. And the only reason he's running is because Donald Trump is running, because he cannot run on his record. Because this is what we're about to do. We're going to go over his record. So, Joe Biden is out there, and he can't run on his record because what is Joe Biden's record? He has been in office now for years. What is he doing? Well, how about his foreign policy? Okay, well, when we look at this headline, that doesn't look good. Oh, remember when we had this disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan that left 13 members of the U.S. military dead? Okay, well, that's not great. All right, we can't run on that. We're not going to run on Afghanistan. People forgot about Afghanistan. That was years ago. Okay, no one remembers how bad Afghanistan was, so it's not like we're going to mention it in the campaign. What about the rest of your foreign policy? Oh, okay, well, you know how your Middle East policy, Donald Trump signed a Middle East peace deal. It's the first time that's happened since I've been alive. I'm 32 years old. It's the first time that's happened. Well, so now China's filling the gap in the Middle East. China's brokering peace deals between Iran, Saudi Arabia. Oh, that's not good, because our policy towards Iran is so bad that the rest of the Middle East now hates us because we're doing such a bad job. And China is filling the void. Oh, yeah, that's not good. So your foreign policy is a disaster. The Middle East foreign policy of the United States is ridiculous. We ceded an entire country to terrorists, and now, because of our refusal to lead in the Middle East, we're allowing China to take the reins. Okay, so that's terrible. The opposite of how good Donald Trump's foreign policy was. Donald Trump, the one area of his presidency, in my opinion, that shined more than any other was his foreign policy. Donald Trump, I don't believe Donald Trump can tell me the difference between Sunni and Shia sects of Islam. He doesn't know which country is which. I don't care. The people he put in charge of the Middle East did a good job. They did a really good job. And Joe Biden is undoing all of that. Okay, well, so you're not running on your foreign policy. What about we're not going to run on the illegal immigration issue. We can't run on that because we're facing the largest migrant surge in 20 years. Okay, we had 2 million illegal border crossings last year. Okay, that's not good. Okay, the number of attempted border crossings by people have increased steadily since April 2020. So for going on 3 years now, we have had an increase, a steady increase in illegal immigrants coming across the southern border that the Biden administration refuses to do anything about. Okay, so we're not running on foreign policy. We're not going to run on the illegal immigration issue because we're not doing anything good to prevent that. In fact, their policies are the opposite of what actual people in the United States want. When you look at policies about whether or not people think that the southern border should be policed, there are very few people who think that it should not. There are very few people who think you should be able to walk across the border and just become an American. Those numbers are very small percentage of people think that there should be no borders. Okay, so we're not running on that. How about it? Are we going to run on the economy? Well, here's our inflation rates from the last year. Not good. We peaked June 2022, 9.1% inflation. What about our 5-year look? Okay. If we're looking at the graph of inflation over 5 years, it looks like normal. Oh, Joe Biden takes over. Oh, then we have this giant spike. Okay, well, maybe it just looks bad in the 5-year graph. What about the 10-year graph? Oh, my gosh. The 10-year graph, it goes normal. The highest one we had was 3%, and then Joe Biden takes office, and we have a giant spike in the inflation rate. What about if we go back to 25 years? Okay, well, this isn't good. 2008, look, 2008, there was a spike. It almost got up to 6%. Wasn't that crazy? We almost had a 6% increase in inflation at the financial meltdown that was 2008. Okay, and then normal, and then Joe Biden takes office and giant spike. Okay, hold on. But that's just for the last 25 years. The fact that we have record inflation, what about if we go back all time? We'll just max the charts out for inflation rates as long as we've monitored them. Okay, well, look at that. In the 50s, we had a giant spike in inflation. We had a giant issue in 1950. Joe Biden was alive then, so it's not the worst since he's been alive. And then again in the 1980s, look, we had a big spike in the 1980s. But look, here's where I was born, 1990. So again, I'm 32 years old. Never in my lifetime have we had an inflation problem. Look at the chart. Just look at it. Never in my lifetime have we had an inflation problem as bad as we have under Joe Biden's presidency. Oh, okay. So we're not running on the economy. So no foreign policy, can't run on the economy, can't run on the illegal immigration issue. Well, what's next? Oh, shit. Well, we can't run on the fact that this article, by the way, I pulled this article up a few days ago. It says, after two historic U.S. bank failures, here's what comes next. Let's chalk that up to 3 now. We had another bank fail this week. So let's not forget that. We are now up to 3 bank failures. Oh, that hasn't happened since, well, it's been a while. 2008, there was some banking issues. So we're not running on that, right? We're not running on the economy. We have run on the bank. Like this is the 1930s, and banks are just going to start failing again? All right, well, we're not running on that. What about, back to our foreign policy again, Ukraine. Oh, my gosh. Let's just look at this chart. So here are the amount of military aid that countries have sent to Ukraine. We've got less than $1 billion. Netherlands, Italy, France, Norway, less than $1 billion each. Then we have, let's just say, $1 to $5 billion. We've got countries like Canada, Germany, Poland, the EU, so the entire European Union, $3.3 billion. The UK, they sent $5 billion. The UK sent $5 billion. That's a lot of money. Oh, but the US, well, we'll just send them $47 billion. That's fine. That's a good thing, right? Oh, the Ukraine war that I think that if we're going to be honest, Joe Biden caused. I don't see any way around it. Joe Biden caused the war in Ukraine. We should actually do a podcast where we go over why that is the case. Just go through step by step. Joe Biden caused the war in Ukraine. It's now cost the United States $47 billion. Oh, that's fine. We just print more money, right? Oh, we'll just run the inflation up more. That'd be fine. So we're not running on making the world a safer place because look what Taiwan says. Taiwan's president warns of catastrophic consequences if island falls to China. We're talking about China taking Taiwan. The president of Taiwan is worried. So what are we running on? What are Joe Biden's accomplishments? Can anyone name them? Can anyone tell me what he's done that's good? What has he done that's made the country better? How about his COVID policy? When he took over and he started firing members of the U.S. military for refusing a vax mandate that he put forward, even when it was clear that the are we even allowed to talk about this? That the vaccine doesn't stop the spread of COVID? Are we allowed to talk about that yet? There's nothing. It doesn't stop transmission at all. So why are we mandating it? It makes no sense. It still makes no sense for young, healthy people to get vaccinated. It doesn't make any sense. It does not stop the spread, but we're just going to fire members of the military because they didn't want to get it because young, healthy people might be a little concerned about some of the negative consequences. Oh, did that make America safer? Did it make our country better? Did it heal us? They tried to force the Biden administration. I'll never forget this. This will be the reason I don't vote Democrat ever again. It's because the Biden administration wanted to force everyone to get vaccinated. They tried to it didn't work, but it doesn't mean they didn't try. There was serious talk that anyone who took Medicare and Medicaid dollars, any agency that took Medicare and Medicaid dollars, they were going to tie it to mandating vaccines at the places of employment. So if you worked for a hospital or an ambulance district, anything like this, then they were going to mandate that those places mandated the vaccine for all of their employees. This was the Joe Biden administration idea, which meant that me, for example, myself, I would have been fired from my job. Joe Biden wanted to fire me from my job because I didn't want to get the COVID vaccine because I'm a bad person. I didn't want to get the COVID vaccine. I had COVID, okay? It wasn't fun, but I'm also a healthy 30-year-old with absolutely no medical conditions. And you know what it was? It was like a bad cold for me, which is what I knew it would be because I am a healthy person. I do not need to take a vaccine. It does not stop transmission. The Joe Biden administration wanted to fire me. They wanted to fire people They did fire people across the country for not taking a vaccine. Is that the unity president that he promised to be? No. Okay, so we're not running on COVID. They shut the schools down. The Democrats shut schools down. We're now talking about the learning loss. We're talking about the epidemic of kids who have mental health issues now. So we're not running on foreign policy. We're not running on the economy. We're not running on illegal immigration. We're not running on our COVID policy. In fact, we're running away from our COVID policy, pretending that the Democrats didn't shut the schools down. They weren't the ones who wanted to do it. Randy Weingartner wasn't out there doing it every single day saying that they needed to do this. So we're not running on that. What are we running on? Oh, what about trans and the kids? Is that what we're running on? Joe Biden, they're so compassionate is that the issue that the Biden administration is going to run on? Oh, it's really important that men can play women's sports. That's what we're doing. That's what we're going to run on. Is that the only accomplishment that this administration have is they're going to let Leah Thomas win the NCAA championships and be fine with it? There is nothing that they can do. So what are they going to run on? They're going to run on January 6th. They're going to run on Trump. The Republicans are going to shoot themselves in the foot. They are going to give Joe Biden another election because they want to elect Donald Trump. I liked Donald Trump. He served a purpose. He was a good president. It is time to move on from that. The Democrats are running Joe Biden because they can't run anyone else. Look this is who they have waiting in the wings. Oh, there we go. This is who they have waiting in the wings. This is why the Democrats have to run Joe Biden, though. Let's listen to this.
The governor and we were all doing a tour of the library here and talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs. And there is such great significance to the passage of time when we think about a day in the life of our children.
Somebody should come up with a drinking game where...
Okay, so she just talked, let's see, 51, so about 30 seconds, give or take. About 30 seconds. She said passage of time 4 times. That was, for those of you just listening who didn't recognize the voice, that's Kamala Harris, talking about the passage of time. What was she even saying? I could pull up 30. I could pull up 30 clips like that of that woman speaking. She is terrible. She's a bad politician. She's a bad public speaker. I don't know what she does well except fail upward. That seems to be her only skill in life, is to just continually fail and yet get promoted. She was a really bad district attorney in San Francisco, then a bad member of Congress. She ran a presidential campaign, never polled above 1%, and then dropped out immediately after Tulsi Gabbard just smashed her to bits, and then became vice president, where she has accomplished exactly no things. And yet the Democrats can't run her, obviously, because she's terrible and off-putting and doesn't know how to speak. So they're running him. They're running Biden against Donald Trump. And all the Republicans have to do, if you want to win this election, it's so winnable. Elect anyone else in the Republican primary. Anyone who's not named Donald Trump, and they will win. I am pulling for Ron DeSantis. Again, not because I don't like Trump. Trump was a good president. I find him ridiculous. He can be ridiculous. It's not that he wasn't a good president. I think that his personality does him a disservice sometimes. Some people love it. People love him because of his personality, and people hate him because of his personality. So if we want to win as a more Republican or conservative-leaning person, if you want to win, don't let Donald Trump be the nominee. This is a winnable election. Go through Joe Biden's record. It's so easy to just highlight his failure because it's just failure after failure after failure. It is not difficult to do. If you want to win the election, be smart. Donald Trump was a middle finger to the establishment. I get why people liked him in 2016. I didn't vote for him in 2016. I voted for Clinton in 2016 because Donald Trump seemed like I was worried what he would do with the presidency. He was a fine president, and so I voted for him in 2020. If he is the nominee, I will vote for him again. I hate to say that because I thought he handled this last election so poorly. But Joe Biden, I don't care because people talk about January 6th. January 6th to me was not a big deal. I hate to say it. I just don't care about January 6th. I don't. I'm not going to sit there and listen to the threats of democracy that people talk about. Oh my gosh, January 6th was so scary for our democracy. No, it wasn't. I never felt 1 second where I said, oh my gosh, they're going to overthrow the government. Those 200 people in the Capitol, they're going to overthrow the government. Never thought that. I was more worried about the fabric of our democracy in the 2020 riots than I was. You know, when they were burning down the 7-Eleven by my house, that's when I felt that we were having issues as a country. It's not when a couple people stormed the Capitol and milled around for a bit and then left. Oh, the only people in the world who tried to stage a coup without weapons, despite the fact that we live in a country of 350 million guns. Oh, they just all forgot they were going to overthrow the government that day and left their guns at home. It's ridiculous. It's nonsense. And that's all that the Democrats have, though. They're only going to run on the fact that Donald Trump messed up the election. That's it. He's an election denier, they'll say. He tried to foment a coup. And that'll score points with people. Run Ron DeSantis. Run Nikki Haley, for all I care. Run Vivek. He seems cool. I don't know much about him, but he seems cool. I've listened to him talk. He seems to get it. He understands the state of what is going on. I think Ron DeSantis would be a great president. He's been a great governor of Florida. People love him. Run him. Tell Donald Trump, quit giving Donald Trump air to kick all the other people in the Republican primary to beat him up, to make him look bad. Quit making Ron DeSantis look bad. He is the future. We don't need a guy who's in his 80s. Joe Biden's going to be 86 when this next term would end. I don't know how old Donald Trump is, but he will be in his 80s. It's old. We don't need these people to run the country. Ron DeSantis coming in with the youth and the fire and the vision. Elect him. He can beat Joe Biden. Anyway, we're going to leave it there for the day. As always, questions, comments. I lament the state of this next election cycle. It is going to be terrible. It's going to wind up being a rematch, and no one wants to see it. I don't understand how it's going to be a rematch when no one wants to see it. You look at polls, and they say there's probably not a single person in the entire country who wants to see a rematch of Joe Biden, Donald Trump, and yet everyone is just it's like a foregone conclusion at this point. Oh, it's going to happen, and it just is sad. It's just sad because it just shouldn't be this way. We have other people. Not Democrats don't. The Democrats certainly don't have a lot of people who would do really well in an election. The reason why Joe Biden will win is because people think he's just some senile ice cream eating fool, and they don't care about him. But they care about other people. They care about Kamala Harris, that's for sure. And they care about Donald Trump. And Donald Trump can't win an election. I don't believe he can. It's just sad. I don't think at this point he can. I think he surprised Clinton, but people know he can win an election, so they're not going to let him win. Anyway, we're going to leave it there for the day. As always, questions, comments, share the podcast, do all the good stuff that helps me out. And I want to thank all of you for listening. Oh, one thing, just real quick. I went to a book fair yesterday. It's pretty nice, pretty fun in St. Louis. And I got a book. I want to make a recommendation. It's not a book that'll make you smarter. But I found this awesome. Look at how giant this book is. So there's actually 5 books in one. But this is the ultimate Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's all of them. There have been very few books that have ever made me laugh out loud to myself like a crazy person. This is one of them. It's so fun. It's just a fun read. And you don't have to read this. This is, like I said, this is all 5 of them put together in one giant book, which is why I bought it, because I thought it was cool. But read that. If you've never read it, it's so funny. The first one is so good. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is one of my all-time favorites. All right, guys. I will catch you on the next podcast. Hope you have a wonderful time. Until then, I'll see you later.